In the far future, when humanity had spread across the stars, Earth was no longer the center of the universe. Hundreds of colonies existed, and humans had met dozens of alien civilizations. The Galactic Peace Treaty had brought calm to the galaxy, but with peace came strange new customs. One of them was the Interspecies Alliance program. It was designed to bring species closer through cultural exchange, and sometimes through marriage. Captain Ethan Ward, a soldier of the Terran fleet, never thought his life would become part of that program. He had fought in 2 border wars and earned medals for bravery. He was strong, loyal, and deeply proud of being human, but now he stood in a sterile white hall on Station Halcyon, facing an assignment he never asked for. He had been chosen to represent humanity in an interspecies union. Across the room stood a group of diplomats and scientists. Beside them, under the soft blue glow of the station lights, stood a tall alien woman, her skin faintly silver, her long hair shimmering like moonlight. Her name was Lura of the Vanyari. The Vanyari were known for their intelligence and calm nature. They communicated through emotion as much as through words. Their society valued unity, empathy, and harmony, all things Ethan didn't quite understand. Ethan clenched his jaw as he read the digital message on his wristband again. Captain Ward, you have been selected for the Human Vanyari Cultural Bonding Initiative. Your cooperation ensures peace and continued trade privileges. Trade privileges, peace, politics. It all sounded like someone else's problem, until it became his. He looked at Lura again. She stood gracefully, her hands folded in front of her, her expression unreadable. Her eyes, large and glowing silver blue, seemed to look right through him. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She simply watched him as if measuring his soul. Ethan turned away. "I'm not doing this," he muttered. "I didn't sign up for—" "Captain," interrupted Ambassador Rin Talbot, an older man with tired eyes. "This is not a request. The Council has decided. You'll represent humanity with dignity. You'll live among the Vanyari for 1 Earth year and complete the alliance ceremony." Ethan felt the anger rise in his chest. "So I'm a symbol now? A political puppet?" Rin sighed. "A hero who keeps peace with words instead of weapons. You've done enough fighting. Maybe it's time to build something instead." But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. He looked again toward Lura. She was still watching him, calm, distant, almost sad. The ceremony began. Soft music filled the chamber, and beams of light formed a circle around them. Ethan stood beside Lura as the galactic emissary read the vows of unity. It wasn't a marriage in the human sense. It was more like a bond of trust between species, a shared oath of learning and respect. Still, to Ethan, it felt uncomfortably personal. When the emissary asked them to exchange a gesture of goodwill, Lura stepped forward and gently placed her hand on Ethan's chest right over his heart. Her skin was cool and smooth like glass. A faint shimmer of light passed between them, a sign of connection. Ethan felt something strange then. For a second he could feel her emotions, calmness, curiosity, and something softer, like compassion. He stepped back, unsettled. Lura bowed slightly. "The bond is made," she said softly. Her voice was melodic, almost musical. "We will learn from each other, human." Ethan didn't reply. He just nodded stiffly. Days later, they were aboard a small Vanyari vessel bound for Oralis, the Vanyari homeworld. The ship was elegant and alive, literally. Its walls pulsed faintly like a heartbeat, and the corridors were filled with silver light that responded to movement. Ethan found it all too strange. He missed the hard metal of human ships, the hum of engines, the smell of machine oil. Everything here was soft and silent. Lura guided him through the ship with quiet patience. She tried to explain how the Vanyari grew their vessels, how each ship was bonded to its crew. Ethan barely listened. He only answered with short words. "Sure. Fine. Interesting." Finally, Lura stopped walking. "You do not wish to be here," she said simply. Ethan crossed his arms. "You're right. I don't." She tilted her head slightly. "Then why did you agree?" "I didn't," he replied. "Command decided for me." She looked at him quietly. "Then perhaps, Captain Ward, you should decide for yourself what you will make of it." Ethan had no answer. That night, Ethan sat in his cabin, staring at the stars through the window. The galaxy looked endless. He thought about the people back on Earth who would never understand what he was doing here. He thought about the soldiers he'd fought beside in Dyke, and how strange it was that peace felt harder than war. He didn't hear the soft knock on the door at first. "Enter," he said finally. Laura stepped in. She held a small silver sphere that glowed softly in her hand. "This is a memory orb," she said. "It helps one understand the other's past. Would you like to see mine?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't think that's—" "It is only sight," she said. "No danger." She placed the orb between them, and a soft projection appeared. An image of a silver-blue world filled with crystal forests and shining oceans. Ethan saw the Vanyari cities floating above the water, built from light and song. He saw their people working together, creating beauty without war. Then the image changed. Burning skies, falling towers, and alien ships attacking. He saw the fear in the Vanyari's eyes as they fought back. Lura spoke quietly. "That was before the treaty. My world knows pain too, Captain." Ethan watched silently. When the light faded, he looked at her. "You lost people," he said. "Yes," she answered. "Many. We chose peace because we learned that victory means little when hearts are broken." For the first time, Ethan saw something in her eyes. Not just calmness, but deep strength. She had known loss just like him. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Lura smiled faintly. Then we began to understand each other. As the days passed, Ethan began to notice small things. How Lura always greeted the ship before speaking to it. How she smiled when he tried the Vanyari way of eating. How she listened without interrupting. He still felt awkward, but something was changing. He started asking questions. He started caring. One evening, as they approached Oralis, Ethan found himself standing beside her on the viewing deck. The twin suns of her homeworld glowed on the horizon, turning the oceans below into rivers of light. "It's beautiful," he admitted. Lura turned her head slightly, her eyes reflecting the stars. Beauty exists when we allow ourselves to see it. Ethan met her gaze. Really met it this time. Her eyes weren't just silver blue anymore. They seemed to hold memories, light, and a quiet hope. For the first time since the assignment began, Ethan felt something other than duty. He didn't understand it yet, but he knew one thing. Maybe this journey wasn't a punishment after all. When the Vanyari ship entered the orbit of Oralis, Ethan stood silently by the viewing window. The planet below looked like something out of a dream. Glowing blue oceans, shining crystal forests, and white floating cities that reflected sunlight like diamonds. It was beautiful, but in a strange, almost unreal way. "Welcome home," Lura said softly beside him. Ethan nodded but didn't speak. He felt small in front of such beauty. Earth with its green forests and brown mountains suddenly felt so far away, rough and simple compared to this perfect world. As the ship descended, Ethan saw thousands of silver lights rising from the surface. They looked like tiny stars, but Lura explained, "They are our people welcoming us." The Vanyari sensed the arrival of new bonds. "You are part of that now." Ethan gave a short laugh. "I'm not sure your people will welcome a human as easily as you do." Lura's expression softened. "Some will not. But peace begins somewhere. Captain Ward, maybe it begins with you." The ship landed in the capital city, Saraviel, a floating city built of glass-like material and powered by energy flowing through crystal roots beneath it. Everything shimmered faintly as if light itself was alive. Ethan followed Lura down the ramp and the air felt strange, lighter, filled with a faint hum almost like music. The Vanyari were waiting. Dozens of tall, silver-skinned figures stood in silence, their eyes glowing softly. A tall male stepped forward, wearing robes of pale blue. His voice was calm but deep. "Lura, child of the House of Vanyel, you return with your bondmate." Lura bowed gracefully. "Yes, Elder Saren, this is Captain Ethan Ward of Terra." The elder turned his gaze toward Ethan. The air grew heavier. For a moment, Ethan felt like the man could see every thought he had ever had. Finally, Saren spoke. "The humans seek to understand. We will see if they can." Ethan gave a small nod, trying to stay respectful. "I'm honored to be here, sir." The elder studied him for a moment longer, then simply said, "We will see," before turning away. Lura gave Ethan a small, encouraging smile. "You did well," she whispered. "I don't think he likes me much," Ethan muttered. Lura looked thoughtful. "The Vanyari remember the wars. They remember human fire and noise. It will take time for them to trust. Lura guided Ethan through the city. Everything was graceful and quiet. Buildings shaped like spirals, walkways that floated above the ground, soft lights moving like fireflies. Even the air felt gentle, as if the world itself was alive and watching. Your cities are too quiet, Ethan said after a while. On Earth, there's always sound. Engines, voices, life. Lura smiled faintly. Here, we listen instead of shout. Ethan tried to smile back. Maybe humans could learn from that. They arrived at Lura's home, a round, open structure made of silver stone and crystal vines. Inside, the walls shimmered faintly with blue light, and a small fountain of liquid light flowed in the center. "This will be your home too," she said. Ethan looked around awkwardly. "It's different." "Beautiful but different," she nodded. "You will get used to it." The next few days were not easy. Ethan tried to learn the Vanyari customs, how they greeted each other by touching palms, how they meditated before meals, and how they spoke slowly, giving every word meaning. But wherever he went, he felt eyes on him. Some looked curious, some cold. At the training hall, where he was supposed to learn their defense rituals, a young Vanyari named Kale sneered. "Humans fight with noise and anger. You have no balance." Ethan tightened his jaw. "Maybe not your kind of balance, but I've survived plenty of battles." Kyle raised his hand, a spark of blue light appearing in his palm. "Show me then, human." Before Ethan could reply, Lura stepped between them. "Enough," she said firmly. "Kale, you shame yourself. This is not the way of peace." Kale bowed his head but glared at Ethan before leaving. Lura turned to Ethan. "Do not answer anger with anger, Captain. That is how peace dies." Ethan sighed. "Where I come from, peace never lasts without strength." Lura looked into his eyes. "Then maybe it is time for you to see a different kind of strength." That night she took him to the Crystal Gardens, a vast field of glowing plants and singing stones. When the wind moved through them, the whole place filled with soft music. It was peaceful and beautiful. "This is where we remember those we lost," Lura said quietly. "Each crystal grows from the memory of one who has passed. We do not bury our dead. We let their light join the living." Ethan walked among the glowing paths, feeling strangely calm. "We bury ours," he said softly. "Maybe because we're not ready to let go." Lura looked up at the stars. "Perhaps, but even buried light can shine again." Ethan turned toward her. "You talk about peace like it's easy." Her eyes softened. "It is not easy, but it is possible. That is why I accepted this bond. I wish to see if humans truly could change." Ethan hesitated. "And what do you think now?" She smiled faintly. "You are still deciding who you are, Captain Ward, but I see something in you. Something the galaxy needs." The following day, the council summoned Ethan. The great chamber of Oralis was carved into the heart of a massive crystal. The floor shimmered like glass and the ceiling reflected the stars. The elders stood in a circle, their eyes glowing faintly. Elder Saren spoke again. "Captain Ward, we offer you a challenge. If you wish to prove humanity's worth, you must face the trial of harmony." Ethan frowned. "What kind of trial?" Saren's voice was calm. "A test of will and heart. You will walk through the path of memory. It will show you your own pain, your fear, and your truth. Only if you face them with peace can the bond be complete." Lura stepped forward quickly. "Elder, he is not trained," Saren raised a hand. "If he cannot face himself, how can we trust his people?" Ethan looked at Lura, then at the council. "I'll do it." Lura's eyes widened. "Ethan, you don't have to—" "Yes," he said firmly. "If this is what it takes, I'll prove it." That evening, Lura stood beside him at the entrance of a great cavern filled with shimmering light. "The path of memory shows not what is real, but what your heart remembers," she said. "Stay calm. Breathe. I will wait for you." Ethan nodded and stepped inside. The world shifted. He was no longer in the cavern. He was back on a battlefield. Smoke, fire, and screams filled the air. He saw his comrades falling one by one. He heard his own voice shouting orders. And then he saw a young soldier, barely 20, reach for him before being consumed by the blast. Ethan fell to his knees. "No." A voice echoed around him, his own voice cold and angry. "You fight, but you never save anyone. You build peace, but destroy everything first." He clenched his fists. "I did what I had to." The echo laughed bitterly. "And now you hide behind peace because you're afraid to fight again." Ethan closed his eyes, shaking his head. "No, I'm not afraid, I don't want more death. The smoke faded. The battlefield turned to light, and from that light, Laura's voice came softly. You understand now. Peace is not the absence of battle. It is the courage to face your own heart. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in the cavern, Laura standing there, her silver eyes warm and calm. You passed, she said quietly. The path accepted you. Ethan stood still, breathing hard. That felt real. It was, she replied gently. Memory is a kind of truth. He looked at her, really seeing her this time, not just as an alien, but as someone who understood pain and hope just like him. Thank you, he said softly. Laura smiled. Perhaps now you will begin to see as we do. That night, as Oralis's twin moons rose over the shining city, Ethan stood beside Laura on the balcony. The air was cool and the stars shimmered above them. I thought coming here was a punishment, Ethan said quietly. But maybe it's a second chance. Laura looked at him, her eyes reflecting the twin moons. Every bond begins with misunderstanding, Captain. But if we listen, even silence can become friendship. Ethan nodded slowly. Then maybe peace isn't so impossible after all. And as the wind carried the song of the crystal gardens through the air, Ethan felt something new, not fear, not duty, but the first small spark of belonging. The morning light spread softly across the floating city of Seraviel. Ethan stood on the balcony of Laura's home, watching the twin suns rise over the silver-blue horizon. It had been weeks since he passed the trial of harmony, and yet the memory still lingered in his heart. For the first time in many years, he felt calm. Life on Oralis had changed him. He had learned the quiet rhythm of Vanyari life, the way they spoke slowly, the way they listened deeply. He had even begun to teach some of them human customs, sharing stories of Earth and showing children how to laugh loudly. But peace never lasts long. Laura found him standing by the balcony. You have been awake since dawn, she said gently. He smiled faintly. Old soldier habit. Can't sleep when I sense a storm coming. She looked at him concerned. What kind of storm? I don't know, he said quietly. Just a feeling. That feeling proved right. By midday, the alarms rang across Seraviel. The normally calm sky filled with flashes of red light as defense ships rose from the city. Ethan rushed to the command terrace where Laura and the council elders stood watching the sky. What's happening? He asked. Elder Saren turned to him, his usually calm face tense. Unidentified ships have entered orbit. Their signals are scrambled. We do not know who they are. Ethan's soldier instincts woke immediately. You have no defense codes for them? They do not respond to our calls, Saren said. They are moving fast toward the planet. Ethan looked at the screens. Dark, metallic ships with sharp edges. His stomach tightened. Those aren't traders or diplomats, he said grimly. Those are warships, Laura turned to him. But who would attack? The galaxy is under peace treaties. Ethan's eyes darkened. Someone who doesn't want peace. The sky above Oralis filled with light. The unknown ships began firing beams of red energy at the planetary shields. The shield held, but it trembled with each blast. Ethan's mind raced. He turned to Saren. You need to move your civilians to the lower platforms. If that shield fails, we will not fight, Saren interrupted. The Vanyari do not answer violence with violence, Ethan stepped forward. And if they destroy your cities? Peace won't matter if you're gone. Saren looked away. We believe they will stop once they see we will not harm them. Ethan clenched his fists. That's not how war works. Laura put a hand on his arm. Ethan! He looked at her, frustration burning in his eyes. You can't stop an attack by standing still, Laura. If you want to live, you have to fight back. She looked into his eyes and saw the fear there. Not for himself, but for them. She nodded slowly. Then show us how, Captain Ward. Within minutes, Ethan was back in his element. The Vanyari ships were fast and graceful, but they lacked the military strategy humans used. He stood in their control room giving short, precise commands. Keep formation tight. Don't chase. Protect the shield generators. Laura watched as he worked, his voice calm but strong. The Vanyari pilots followed his orders. For the first time, human strategy and Vanyari skill worked together. The enemy ships began to break formation. Confused by the resistance, one of the young pilots, Kale, the same who once mocked Ethan, turned to him and said, Your ways are strange, human. But they work? Ethan gave a quick nod. Just keep flying, kid. Hours passed and the battle raged on. The skies of Aralis burned with light. Finally, the enemy fleet pulled back. The city's shield dimmed but held firm. The Vanyari Council watched in silent awe as the last enemy ship disappeared into space. Saren turned to Ethan. "You saved many lives today." Ethan shook his head. "No, we did. They would have destroyed everything if your people hadn't stood with me." Saren nodded slowly. "Perhaps the strength of humans is not only in war but in courage." Ethan smiled faintly. "We just don't like losing." Lura's soft laugh broke the tension. "Then I'm glad you were here to help us win peace again." But peace after battle is never simple. When the council examined the wreckage of one of the enemy ships, they discovered something shocking. The ship's markings matched the Dravari Syndicate, a ruthless group known for breaking treaties and selling stolen technology. Lura's expression darkened. "The Dravari have been silent for years. Why attack now?" Ethan frowned. "Because of us. The human-Vanyari bond threatens their power. If we unite, they lose control," Saren sighed. "Then our peace endangers us all." Ethan shook his head. "No, it shows that peace is worth fighting for." In the following days, the city began to rebuild. Ethan helped wherever he could, lifting debris, repairing defense panels, and even helping the children rebuild their singing stones in the gardens. One evening, as he finished his work, he found Lura sitting beside the fountain in their home, her expression quiet but troubled. "You should rest," he said softly. "I cannot," she whispered. "When the attack began, I saw fear in my people's eyes. I thought peace would protect them." "I was wrong," Ethan sat beside her. "Peace doesn't mean weakness, Lura. It just means you fight only when you must." She looked at him sadly. "And now we must," he nodded. "Now we must." A few days later, a message came from the Galactic Council. They had heard about the attack. The message was clear. The Council demanded an investigation, but it would take weeks before they acted. Ethan slammed his fist on the table. "Weeks? By then the Dravari could attack again." Lura placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "Then we will prepare ourselves until help arrives." He looked at her, seeing the quiet strength in her eyes. "You've changed," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "Perhaps I am learning from you, human," he chuckled. "And I'm learning from you. Maybe that's what this bond was always meant to do." That night, as Oralis slept, Ethan stood on the balcony again, watching the stars. He thought about Earth, about how far he'd come. From a soldier who wanted nothing to do with aliens to someone who now risked his life for them. He didn't notice Lura walk up beside him until she spoke softly. "You miss your world," he nodded. "Sometimes, but I don't know if I'd belong there anymore." Lura looked at him gently. "Belonging is not where you come from, Ethan. It's where your heart finds peace." He turned toward her, his voice quiet. "And where do you find peace, Lura?" She met his eyes. "Here, with those who fight for life, not against it." They stood in silence, the stars reflecting in their eyes. For the first time, the distance between their worlds didn't seem so great. The next morning brought darker news. A Vanyari scout ship had vanished near the outer rings. The readings showed traces of Dravari energy signatures. Ethan's instincts flared again. "They're planning something bigger." Saren looked grave. "Then we must be ready. But this time, Captain Ward, we will not hide behind shields. We will stand beside you." Ethan nodded firmly. "Then let's make them regret coming back." Before the council dismissed him, Lura stepped forward. "Ethan, I will go with you," he frowned. "No, it's dangerous." "You should stay here," she shook her head. "I am your bondmate, remember? The Vanyari fight with their hearts one, and mine tells me to stand beside you." Ethan hesitated. He wanted to protest, but he knew better. There was strength in her calmness. Strength he had come to trust. "All right," he said finally. "Then we do this together." The new Alliance fleet was small but united. Human design strategy combined with Vanyari precision. Ethan stood at the bridge of the lead ship, Lura beside him. As they left the planet's orbit, he looked once more at the shining world below. "We'll protect it," he said softly. Lura nodded. "And maybe protect more than that, the hope between our people." Ethan smiled. "Hope's the strongest weapon humans ever made." The stars stretched before them, endless and uncertain. But for the first time, Ethan didn't feel alone. He felt part of something greater, a bond between two species, built not on fear or duty but on understanding, and deep in the cold silence of space, The Dravari waited, preparing for war. Ethan's eyes hardened as the fleet moved forward. "Let them come," he murmured. "They'll learn what humanity really means." The fleet moved through the dark sea of space. Stars glittered outside the windows like 1,000 silent watchers. Ethan stood on the bridge of the Vanyari ship Siren 1, watching the navigation lights flash across the control panels. Lura stood beside him, calm but focused, her silver eyes shining in the dim light. For days they had searched for the Dravari syndicate, tracing energy trails and broken signals through the outer systems. The silence of space was heavy, like the calm before a storm. Ethan felt that old soldier's weight in his chest, the feeling that battle was near. Lura broke the quiet. "You do not sleep much," Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans don't sleep well before fights. We start thinking about what could go wrong." She tilted her head. "And what could go right?" He looked at her, surprised, then nodded. "Maybe that's what keeps us going." The ambush on the third day, the radar came alive with red lights. Multiple contacts appeared ahead. Large ships moving fast. "Dravari fleet detected," the pilot called out. 20 vessels closing distance. Ethan leaned over the display. "All ships prepare formation Delta. Keep shields up. Don't fire first." The Vanyari ships moved gracefully like silver birds turning in perfect circles. Their energy cores glowed softly, forming a shining wall between the enemy and Oralis. Across the stars, the Dravari ships appeared, dark, sharp, and built for war. Their leader, Commander Vorek, sent a message across the channel. His image flickered on the screen, gray-skinned, eyes cold like steel. "So this is the human hero," Vorek said. "You stand beside the Vanyari now? Weak creatures who hide behind light." Ethan stood tall. "They believe in peace. You believe in fear. I'll stand with them any day," Vorek laughed. "Then die with them." The transmission cut and the sky exploded with red fire. The battle begins. The first wave struck the Alliance fleet like a storm. Energy beams flashed across the darkness. Shields shimmered and explosions bloomed like dying stars. The Vanyari ships tried to hold their ground, but the Dravari fire was strong. "Shields at 70%, shouted Kale from his station. "We can't take another hit like that." Ethan's voice was steady. "Hold the line. Target their lead ship. Focus fire on the command core." Lura moved her hands across the glowing controls. Power from secondary crystals redirected to the front shields. The ship trembled under another impact, but it held. Ethan felt the vibration in his bones. Every instinct told him to fight harder, to push back. "Now!" he shouted. "Fire!" A bright beam of white energy shot from the Siren 1, striking the Dravari flagship. The blast tore through its armor, sending fragments spinning into the void. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Ethan didn't smile. "Don't celebrate yet. They'll come harder now." The turning point Vorek's fleet began to surround them. More ships emerged from hyperspace, cutting off their retreat path. The Alliance fleet was trapped. Ethan looked at the tactical map. "We can't win by holding ground. We need to move," Lura frowned. "Move where?" "Through them," Ethan said. "Straight at the center. Hit their power core. Take out the flagship and the rest will fall apart." Kale's eyes widened. "That's suicide." Ethan turned to him, his voice calm but fierce. "It's also victory." He looked at Lura. "You trust me?" Without hesitation, she said, "Always." Ethan gave the order. "All ships follow Siren 1. We're breaking the line." The fleet charged forward, engines blazing. The Dravari fired everything they had, but the Alliance ships moved like light itself, weaving between beams and debris. The stars turned into streaks of color as they cut through the center of the enemy line. "Direct hit on the flagship's shield," Lura reported. "Again!" Ethan commanded. The second shot tore a hole in the enemy defenses. Flames and smoke filled the void. But then the Dravari flagship launched a massive counterblast. It struck Siren 1 directly, shaking the ship to its core. Systems flickered. Sparks flew. The main control crystal cracked. Power dropping fast. Kale shouted. Ethan grabbed the railing. "Lura, we're losing engines!" She pressed her palms against the glowing console. Light spread from her hands into the ship. "I can stabilize it. But I need more energy." Ethan moved to her side. "What can I do?" "Trust," she said quietly. "Our bond can share strength." He hesitated only a moment before placing his hand over hers. The light between them grew brighter, their connection pulsing through the ship like a heartbeat. The damaged systems began to glow again, and the ship steadied. Laura gasped softly. It worked, Ethan smiled. Then let's finish this. The final strike, target their command core, Ethan ordered. All ships synchronize fire on my mark. He waited for the right moment as the Dravari flagship turned, exposing its weak point. The stars seemed to hold their breath. Now, dozens of beams fired at once, merging into one brilliant stream of light. It struck the flagship dead center. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the entire ship exploded, a blinding burst that lit up the darkness. The remaining Dravari ships scattered, their formation broken. Some fled into hyperspace. Others powered down their weapons. The battle was over. A long silence filled the bridge. Then Kale whispered, We did it. Ethan exhaled slowly. No, we all did it. Laura looked at him with a gentle smile. The bond of two worlds. After the battle, when the fleet returned to Auralis, the people filled the skyways to greet them. Lights glowed across the floating cities and songs of gratitude echoed through the crystal gardens. Ethan stood among the cheering crowd, feeling something warm he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Elder Saren approached him. Captain Ward, you have given us more than protection. You have shown us courage. Ethan shook his head modestly. I just did what anyone would do. No, Saren said firmly. You did what few would dare. Fight for peace with both heart and fire. Lura stepped forward. He did not fight alone. We all shared the same light. The elder smiled. Then may that light guide our future. The new dawn weeks passed and the galaxy began to change. The news of the human Vanyari victory spread across the stars. Other species that once distrusted humanity now saw them differently. The phrase strength through unity became the symbol of a new era. Ethan and Lura often walked together in the crystal gardens, where the singing stones now glowed brighter than before. The stars are quieter now, Ethan said. No battles. Just peace. Lura smiled softly. Because people finally listened. He looked at her. I never thought I'd find home light years away from Earth. She turned toward him, her eyes reflecting the glowing stones. Home is not a place, Ethan. It is the people you choose to protect. For a moment, the wind carried their silence, gentle and full of meaning. The message one morning, a small drone from the Galactic Council arrived with a message. It read, The Human Vanyari Alliance is officially recognized as a model of peace. Captain Ethan Ward and Envoy Lura Vaniel are hereby appointed as ambassadors of unity. Ethan smiled as he read it aloud. Ambassadors, huh? Sounds fancy. Lura laughed softly. It means our work is not over. Guess not, he said. But this time we'll build instead of fight. The legacy months later, the first joint human Vanyari Academy opened on Auralis. Children of both species studied together, learning science, language, and history. Ethan often trained young cadets, teaching them both courage and restraint. One of the students asked him, Captain Ward, why did you risk your life for a world that wasn't yours? Ethan smiled gently. Because peace isn't owned by one world. It belongs to everyone who dares to protect it. Lura, standing beside him, added, and sometimes it begins with understanding someone who once seemed very different. The children nodded, their eyes full of wonder. Epilogue that night. The twin moons of Auralis hung high above the silver oceans. Ethan and Lura stood on the same balcony where he had once doubted everything. He looked out at the stars. Funny, he said softly. I came here angry and alone. I didn't want any of this. Now I can't imagine leaving. Lura's voice was calm and warm, because you looked not with fear but with heart. He turned to her. You taught me that. They stood together as the wind moved through the glowing vines, carrying the distant songs of the city. The stars above seemed to burn a little brighter, as if watching two lives that had changed the fate of many. For Ethan Ward, the human who once wanted no part of alien bonds, peace had finally become real. And for Lura, who had once doubted humanity's spirit, hope had taken the form of a man who refused to give up. Two worlds. Two hearts. One light.